In a previous video, we added the level complete scene. The level complete scene shows a summary of your stats, such as coins picked up and how long it took you to get there, and you get to the level complete scene by reaching the gate at the end of the level. Now what we're going to do is when you hit something lethal and the level ends, you will also get to the level complete. It'll show a status of fail, but it'll show you stats as far as how long you survived and power-ups picked up, things like that. So, a couple things we want to do before we get to there. First, when you crash into an object and your player gets deleted, we really want the camera to come to a standstill. We want it to stop rather than keep traveling even though you've been defeated. So that's an easy fix. First we're going to do is going to go to the GM script. We're going to add a new static variable. That way it's accessible throughout the entire application. Public static float zvel adj. So it's the z-axis and it's a velocity adjustment. That's what it stands for. And it's going to be set at 1. Now why 1? Because it's going to be a factor. We're going to multiply whatever the z velocity is by 1. So at the beginning of the game it will have no effect because 1 times anything is whatever you've multiplied it by. So at the beginning of the game, so if you go to move cam, this is the statement that makes the camera move, and as you can see it has a velocity of 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this new variable that we created and we're going to modify this by that. So times gm dot zvel adj. So again, at the beginning this is 1, so 4 times 1 is 4. It makes no difference at the beginning. But we go to the move orb script, which is attached to the player character, and when you hit something that's tagged as lethal, right now the orb gets destroyed but nothing else. So we're going to change that. So gm dot z velocity adjustment is going to be set to 0. And now what that does is 4 times 0, 0. It'll bring the camera to a halt. So let's run that. And there's a collision right at the beginning here, so there we go. Comes to an end. So that's easy enough. I suppose if you want to be a little bit more, I don't want to say cinematic, but if you don't want it to just come to a complete halt, if you want it to maybe slow down for a second, you could do that too, but we'll deal with just this. So the camera's brought to a halt. Now, what we want to do next is we want to have a little visual effect when your player character gets destroyed. So let's go to Game Object Particle System and we'll call this Boom. We will turn this into a circle. We will have start lifetime be like 1 second, start speed be 1, start size be like 0.1. Gonna have to bump up the emissions. And what we're gonna do is rather than using a rate, okay, we'll stop that, delete that, and we're gonna do a burst. So we want a one-off burst. And we'll do it right at 0, 0, 0. So as soon as this gets instantiated, there'll be a burst. So let's see how 1500 looks. And got to drop that down to 1 second. Zoom in a bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to change the radius. So we're going to bring that in. There we go. So now it's more like a ring explosion. We only need it to explode once, so let's see. We don't want it pre-warmed. We don't want it to loop. And let's make it red just because just about everything is white at the moment. Okay, so we're going to take that. We're going to drag and drop that into the asset area, turning it into a prefab. And what we're going to do is we're going to have that be instantiated. We're going to have the orb object call that prefab into the scene. So what's going to happen is the orb is going to get destroyed when you collide into something, and it gets replaced by that explosion. So back in the move orb script, we need to make the orb aware of that prefab. So public transform, and we'll call this boom obj. I like to append the letters obj to game objects. That way when I see it in a pre-fill list I know what it's referring to, that it's a game object. And now when we click on our player sphere, you'll see that new variable there. So we drag and drop that onto it, and we just need it to be instantiated. So in addition to changing the camera velocity to 0, we also want to instantiate this new object. So instantiate, there's 3 arguments to instantiate. There is what is being instantiated, so it's the boom object. Where it's being instantiated, we want to be instantiated at transform.position. Transform.position is whatever the location is of the object that the script is attached to. This script is attached to the player object, and so that means that the transform.position will grab that position. So wherever the player is, since the script is attached to it, that's what this will be equal to. And that's what we want to happen. We want the boom object, the explosion, to be instantiated at wherever the orb just was. And then the third argument is the rotation. We want to use the boom object's own rotation. And that should just about do it. Let's see, we already dragged and dropped it, so I think that will do it. The particle system may not be designed quite right because we really didn't look at it up close in the map, but let's see how it looks when it instantiates. So that was just about right, actually. Probably lasts a little bit too long, so we can tweak that. So the duration is, make it like 0.8, and we'll actually make it speed up just a little bit. Won't mess with this too much because it's really arbitrary. Whatever, it's part of the aesthetic is you want it to be like really fast, but that's fine. So now the orb gets destroyed, you get a visual explosion, and then the camera comes to a stop. Now what we want to do is we want to load the level complete scene. And we'll have that be performed in the GM script, since we're saying we're using the GM script for these connectivity type of issues as far as game flow. So we'll create a new variable, public static string level comp status. So this is going to be succeed or fail. So we'll save that. For move orb, again we're in the section for where a lethal object has been collided with, and we'll take that variable level comp status and we'll set it equal to fail. we will let's just have it trigger a simple timer. So we'll call this public static. Oh, it doesn't need to be static. Just public float wait to load. Set it 0. In the update section, what we'll do is if wait to load, oops, actually we want if level comp status equals double equal sign fail, okay, so if level comp status equals fail, then wait to load plus equals time dot delta time. So again, we're just dropping in how much time has passed since the last time this happened. And now outside of this, well, it can be either inside or outside. If wait to load equals, we'll just say greater than. Is greater than, we said we're going to give it 2 seconds. It's greater than 2, then before we do this, we've got to put the scene manager in here. So using Unity engine dot scene management, scene manager dot load scene, and we're loading level comp. Did I use an uppercase or lowercase? Uppercase. In fact, both of them are upper. Levels upper. Now you could ask, why not just use IE numerator? Because I tried it and it didn't want to work, so not sure if it was human error or for some reason you can't load from within IE numerator. So I can look at that at a later time, but sometimes it's easier just to, rather than being mule-headed and trying to do things a certain way, if you can do something easily enough another way, just do it. No sense bringing the project to a standstill. So basically, this variable gets set to this value in the move arb script when a collision with a lethal object happens. So this becomes a true status. So since it's true, this begins to happen. Okay. This, or should I say this, checks that value and says, okay, if it's greater than 2, then go ahead and load level comp. And that should do it. There we go. So I think that's enough for one lesson. So we basically did some housekeeping. Actually, I take that back. Let's do one more thing. We said that we wanted the status to show up in level comp. So we'll save this. We'll go to level comp. We'll grab that, copy, paste, we'll rename it, we'll call this run status. Actually, let's put this at the top. So So let's move these two down. Okay. There, there, there. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go into that stats script, and we're going to use the same logic as far as checking the name of the object. So this time, if game object name is run status, then we want it to be equal to, we don't need a string constant, we just need gm dot level comp status. So that's why I set it as fail rather than alive, dead, whatever. That way we can just actually use that status. We can drop its value right in here. And what we will also do we'll go back to here. We could have just gone to the script, but I like checking a script while I'm in the scene, same scene, so I don't get confused what I'm doing. And what we're going to do is when you collide with the exit, we can also do gm dot level complete status, and this one will say success. So if you reach the exit, it'll say success. If you crash and burn anywhere else, it will say fail. And then that should wrap up this lesson. There we go, so success. Fail. Perfect.